Hi, Eric Esshaki here. I'd like to thank the JCRC for letting me speak to you. I'm not a politician, I was a nurse, and now I'm an attorney. I've never run for political office before, and I decided to run now because I think too often the politicians treat us like kids. We need to have adult conversations and honestly discuss the issues. I think we, meaning you and I, and frankly most people in America, can come together and take steps towards solutions. Maybe we don't agree on every solution, but there's a lot of room to work together to get things done. I suspect, like me, you care about healthcare, the economy, our response to COVID, public safety, and things like equal justice for all. So you asked if I'd answer a couple questions, and I'm more than happy to. The first question asks, given the steep rise in anti-Semitism and racism, what will you do during your term to combat such hate and encourage bridge building between people of different backgrounds? Well, there's a couple steps we need to take. First, step one, it's important to note that everyone should be treated with respect. We all have a duty to ensure this happens, and that includes the duty of every level of government to treat people with dignity and respect. It's even more true that we need to respect those we disagree with, because part of racism and anti-Semitism is about dehumanizing our fellow humans. You look at history, and that's always what it's about. Make a certain group of people subhuman so people begin to justify treating them horribly. It infects daily life where someone angers you and you want to lash out. We know it's wrong, but it happens. So let's start there. Let's start with treating people with dignity and respect. We should require no less from our government, whether it's during a traffic stop or in the way in which we provide our health care to people. Step two, we need to get out of our bubble and meet other people. Muslim, Jews, Christians, all have a long and intertwined history. I'm a Chaldean Christian. My father immigrated from Iraq back in the 70s. And regardless of where we come from, we all need to take steps to bring people together. The truth is that there are millions of people who come before us who have been good friends and neighbors to one another. We need to build on that tradition. So stepping up to reach out across lines and get to know one another, that's an important step. Those are the more personal steps that we can all take. But we have laws. And we also need to work to change hearts and minds. We need to actively discourage people from dehumanizing those whom they disagree with. I'm a Republican. I'm running against a Democrat. We have very different visions on policy. But we have to remember that we're both people who love our country and want to help our community. The second question, the U.S.-Israel relationship has become increasingly partisan over the last several years at many levels of government. Do you agree with this assessment, and how do you think that trend can be reversed? Well, I don't understand how the U.S.-Israel relationships become so partisan. It seems like partisanship infects just about everything these days. Israel is one of America's great friends and allies, as is Britain and also France. That doesn't mean we don't disagree. We do, and we will. Just like any extended family, you don't always have, to think your cousin or uncle is right all the time. I think in the past 2 to 3 decades, as the United States has gotten entangled deeper in the Middle East, it's become too easy to confuse the issues. First, Israel has the right to exist, period. It has the right to be at peace. Second, as I mentioned in the earlier question, we all need to treat each other with respect and stop dehumanizing one another. There are still people and countries that vow to exterminate Israel and wipe it off the map. The people who say that are not idle. These are real threats. For some, the fact that people would say such things is hard to imagine. But it's important that we recognize those. Now, I oppose the boycott, divestment, and sanction movement against Israel because it's wrong, it's racist, and it's clearly counterproductive. It leads to the dehumanizing of people and ignores the fact that Israel is an economic partner to the United States, is a security partner to the United States as well. Now, I mentioned the U.S.-Middle East entanglements. The record of the U.S. trying to impose solutions has not been great. The U.S. has been able to act as an honest broker and supported nations that enter into dialogue. Egypt, Jordan, and the UAE have found pathways to talk and negotiate. We need more talk and more honest dialogue. The history of threats in the Middle East is a sad one. I believe encouraging dialogue around human rights, treating people well, and encouraging economic stability is a good start. If Palestinians see a positive path to peace, respect, and economic well-being, they too can have more hope in a successful dialogue. So it is a two-way street. The third question. Politicians and the public have understandably been focusing their attention towards COVID-19 and the racial divides plaguing our country. Therefore, other issues, such as the immigration crisis, have been decreasing in the public eye. How can we ensure that during this time, immigrants to this country, especially those imprisoned at the southern border, are not forgotten? Well, I think there's a difference between the shouting we see in the press or on Twitter and the real world. Many problems remain. COVID is certainly a gigantic problem. But turning to immigration, I would point out it is not just the southern border where the issue lies. It's here in Michigan as well. Our issues with immigration will get better if we have a principle of treating people with respect. Now, as a policy matter, I believe we need to make illegal immigration harder and legal immigration easier. I want a secure border, and I don't want to reward people who enter this country illegally. But halting illegal entry can and must be done with dignity and respect. You see, part of the problem is the politicalization and badly managed funding to secure the border. As I mentioned, there's also a problem here in Michigan. Border agents weren't acting appropriately in how they dealt with people here who had potential immigration violations. I joined with others calling on the president to fix these policies. The fact is, we want a healthy and orderly immigration system. We need to have adult conversations about fixing it and stopping the politicians from playing their games. The problem isn't going away until we do that. I think we can start with securing the border, treating people with respect, and getting people out of the shadows. We're not going to have a magical fix here, but we can work at making it better until we get it working right. And finally, question 4. What is your top priority while you're in office? Well, I want government to work. I want to tackle problems, and I want to start having adult conversations about policy issues. That means moving away from the talking points and rhetoric and having a substantive policy discussion about fixing our healthcare system and controlling the costs, about improving our economy through smart tax policy and a meaningful review of regulations that just aren't working. And we need to address our immigration system. Thank you for taking the time to listen. And again, I encourage you to contact my campaign if you have any questions for me. Thank you.